It is Saturday, 28th of November 2020, and this video is titled The Art of Patience. One thing which became very clear to me quite a few years ago is that I clearly incarnated into this reality at this point in the timeline to learn the life lesson of patience. It's something I've always struggled with. I've actually got memories of being in infant school way back in the day, and my teacher there taking my mum to one side and saying, "Mark struggles with patience. If he wants something, he wants it right now, or better yet, yesterday. He doesn't like to have to wait." And this has stayed with me all through my life, just being honest about it. It's been a character trait of mine. It's been a character flaw of mine, I guess. I've always taken the view that if you want something in your life, if you want to see something happen, why would you want to wait for that to manifest? Why would you not want it right now, or better yet, yesterday? But the old phrase, "good things come to those who wait," certainly comes to mind here, as does the old maxim that patience is a virtue. And clearly it is a lesson that we have to learn in life because certain things are out of our hands. It's been very difficult for me the past few months because there have been many things that I've wanted to see happen. There have been many things that I've been willing for, that I've been asking for. I've been praying, I've been going on my walks and talks and connecting with God, the Most High, the higher power, whatever name you want to put on the Creator, and making these statements of affirmation, casting out my will and my intent and asking for certain things to be put into physical manifestation. I'm still waiting for most of those to be fulfilled. I haven't lost faith or hope that they won't be, but I realise that I do have to wait until the time is right. And I've come to realise that it's a case of making that affirmation, casting out your will and your intent, putting out there that which you wish to achieve or see manifest, and then not obsessing over the outcome every day, not intensely attaching yourself to it, as I've been guilty of doing over the past weeks and months, but rather taking a step back, detaching yourself from the situation and letting go of all attachment to the outcome. So you do have to have some faith that what you've asked for will be fulfilled when the time is right for it to come into being. And the time isn't always right when you yourself might want it. There are so many other factors at play here on a cosmic level. It's been a lesson very harshly learnt for me this year, but I'm certainly learning it. And it's really coloured and shaped my attitude towards things at this point in the game, at this point in this most monumental of years. Whereas I have been very intensely involved in the fine detail, the minutiae, the nuts and bolts, the places, dates, names and times of this whole C-word narrative for most of the year. I've wallowed in all the doom-laden, dreadful, devastating information. I've obsessed over the fine detail. I've made it my business to look at many different sources, listen to many different speakers, look at many different documents, consider many different viewpoints. But I've really reached the stage now where I recognise that you have to sow some seeds sometimes and then be prepared to ease off, take a step back and wait for those seeds to germinate and wait for the results to manifest themselves. So I personally feel that I've done a lot this year. I feel that I've put a lot of information out there. I feel that I've done a lot in terms of activism, in terms of pushing back against the tyranny and the madness that's been afflicting us all. I feel that I've resisted many of the petty rules and regulations in whatever ways that I can. And I've made it my business. I've given a lot of time, a lot of energy, a lot of resources to what I consider to be right action, to the obligation that I've felt to help others and to put information out there and to push back against this whole thing. And I realise now that there's not a lot more I can do at this stage other than wait for those seeds that I've sown and that work that I've put out there to result in something tangible. And really, I don't have a lot of other choice, I feel, at this stage. And many other people probably feel the same way, because many situations are out of my hands personally. there's nothing I could do about them with the best will in the world, even if I wanted to, because it's just not practical in that way. So, for example, we have got the debacle, the ongoing saga with the US elections. Whereas many of the Q pundits and many people that are up on the whole Trump/Q narrative had us believe that on the night of 3rd of November, Donald Trump was going to sweep the board and go straight to victory in a landslide and secure his second term in office. And that on the 4th of November, he was going to roll up his sleeves, start to clean house, and do all the things that we've been told he's been planning to do all this time. It hasn't worked out that way, has it? We're over 3 weeks on from that now. And still, we have the mainstream media alleging that Joe Biden is going to be president. The idea still just makes me laugh. But nevertheless, that is the narrative that the average mainstream media believing normie has taken on board, that Trump has lost the election, he's served one term and that's going to be it, and come January 20th, Joe Biden is going to be the 46th president of the United States. I still don't feel it's going to pan out that way. I feel fairly certain that Team Trump are going to present all the evidence that is needed to prove beyond all doubt that that election was stolen, that it was rigged, that the whole thing was fraudulent. I've seen evidence of so much of this already, enough, I feel, already to call the election in a very different way to what the mainstream has. So I feel that Donald Trump is going to take his second term on the 20th of January. It's still a question of how long it's going to take for it to be officially acknowledged that that is the case. So here we are at the end of November, and it's perfectly feasible that this whole thing could be dragged out all the way to Inauguration Day in January. That's a long wait. If we're very obsessively and very anxiously attached to the outcome of that, we're going to have a very troublesome few weeks ahead, unless we can learn to take a step back and consider that it's in the hands of the gods. What will be will be. We've done all we can. Our contribution can be no more in this regard at this stage of the game, and we really do have to wait to see how things pan out. That's just one example of it. Another one, which is very UK specific, would be the private criminal prosecutions being brought under common law by Michael O'Byrne and his team against all British MPs, specifically Matt Hancock. Boris Johnson won't be far behind if that case is successful, but all the other MPs that voted for an extension of the most recent lockdown in the UK. So we're told that that case is progressing, but that it has hit a number of snags and hurdles, as may have been expected, in terms of paperwork, admin, gaining certain approvals and permissions from various aspects of the court system. So that whole process is not going as smoothly as many of us would have liked. If I'd had my way, the minute that case was launched and those prosecution papers were issued, the warrants were issued, all these MPs would instantly have been placed under house arrest, and that would include Hancock and Johnson, and the government would have been effectively suspended. But that's not worked out that way, and so we have to have some faith and some hope that things are going to pan out in that regard the way we would want them to. We also have the situation with the incoming date of the 21st of December, now less than a month away. Many psychics, many mediums, many spiritual scholars, astrologers are pointing to that specific date, the winter solstice of this year, as having significant importance by way of a major paradigm shift in human consciousness. So the idea that many of these people agree on, from all corners of the world, from all different walks of life, they're all singing from the same hymn sheet when they predict that we are due a massive upgrade of our consciousness and our connectedness to creation and everything else and each other when these amazing planetary conjunctions occur, specifically Saturn and Jupiter, but I gather there are other components that are expected to be in place on the 21st of December and onwards. And the idea from all these people is that we humans, in terms of our DNA responding to these cosmic changes, are going to be upgraded and are going to at least have the opportunity to attune our consciousness on a much higher level in line with everything that's going on. But again, we have to wait for that one. So it's another 3.5 weeks away or whatever it is. So it's a case of kicking back, easing off, not attaching ourselves too much to it, not getting too anxious and frantic about it, but trusting that it's going to occur and learning to let go of it in the meantime. These are lessons that are going to be hard learnt by me, but I'm making the very best effort that I can to change my approach in all of these things, because I'm just recognising that these are all out of our hands and there's very little that we can do to influence the situation either way. So it's a waiting game, and it's an enforced lesson in patience and in faith. I mean, another factor that figures is also the awakening of large portions of the general public all over the world to the scamdemic and to the fact that we've been lied to monumentally by our governments and by the mainstream media and all kinds of official sources when it comes to this C word debacle. More and more people are getting wise to this. So I'm not talking about an awakening in the sense of heightened consciousness here. I'm just talking about people responding to the vast amount of information that the likes of many people watching this video will have been putting out there over the past weeks and months to show that the official narrative of the C word does not stand up to scrutiny. And there are many medical professionals, doctors, there are lawyers, there are politicians all coming forward now. Again, nowhere near quickly enough for my liking. So it's another reminder of the fact that I'm not in control of these things and I have to learn to be content and to step back and be patient. But it is starting to happen, slowly, gradually. More and more people coming forward to blow the lid off the official story, and more people are grudgingly having to come to accept that this has been a monumental psyop fraud and they've been had big time. I was having a conversation with a couple of friends in the week about the rate at which this might be happening, and we agreed that it's got to be in excess of 10,000 people in the UK alone every week that are coming to a grudging acceptance that they've been lied to and that they can no longer trust the official story on this. So that process clearly is going to continue, and I feel the major pushback that we're going to see is going to be connected with the vaccine aspect of the narrative, which is where we're at in the story now. So a lot of news, a lot of talk, a lot of chatter in the mainstream media about the rollout of the vaccine and how if there's a major take-up of it, by the time the spring rolls around, we might be allowed to return to some semblance of normality. Well, I feel the psychopaths are going to encounter major resistance to the vaccine because of the amount of knowledge there is in the general public of how unsafe vaccines really are, given the track record, given the evidence of the vast numbers of people that have been vaccine injured, particularly children, and also given the list of toxic ingredients which are going into the COVID-19 vaccine, which is also now out there in the public domain, so anyone can find out some of the horrors that they're putting into this thing. And anyone that's read that list, to still roll up their sleeve and accept one of these things being jabbed into them, you've got to be clinically insane after accepting what's in it. So there is going to be major pushback, and that is going to be a very interesting aspect of the story to watch when they attempt to push the vaccine out to the majority of the population, as they've said they want to do. Again, it's another one where we just have to sit back and watch things unfold. But the story as we head into 2021 is going to be very different to what it's been in 2020, I feel. We were all taken by surprise this year. We were all caught in shock. We were all stunned and traumatized and had the bloody bejesus terrified out of us in so many cases because we just weren't expecting it. But we know much more now what the plan is, and we know much more what where they plan to take things in terms of the future steps. We're much better prepared for it. And so it's a waiting game to see how all these different aspects unfold in the coming weeks, particularly after the 21st of December. And what we have to do is find ways of busying and occupying ourselves physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually in the meantime. And what we do will differ from person to person. if you are somebody with a propensity towards meditation, now is an excellent time to be going into those realms. For me personally, it's something I've always struggled with. I just can't lose that chatter in my mind. My mind is going at 1,000 miles an hour every minute that I'm awake, and seemingly when I'm not awake as well. So what I've been doing is throwing myself back into some music-based activities. So as we approach the end of the year, I've got a couple of radio shows coming up on FM, on First FM, going out of Oxford. This is the radio station that I was on regularly up until the summer. I no longer have my weekly show on that station, The Sound of Now. I put that out independently as a podcast. But I'm doing a couple of shows which will be going out on FM at the end of the year. So the first one is on Saturday, the 26th of December, which is Boxing Day, between 8 and 10 p.m. I'm doing a Sound of 2020, which is all the big, soulful, uplifting tunes that I've busted on The Sound of Now this year in a continuous 2-hour mix. It's going to be all the most uplifting, inspirational, powerful tracks that have helped to get me through this year and evidently have helped many other people as well. So that show will be going out on Boxing Day, and then on New Year's Eve, which is a Thursday this year, I'm going to be doing another episode of Studio 105, which is a show I've done for the past 3 New Year's Eves on First FM. It's 4 hours of soulful disco revivals in the mix. So I'm really going back into the archives for that, digging in the crates and pulling out some old tunes from the 70s and the early 80s. And I'm greatly enjoying that process. I've started it already. I'm finding it a very therapeutic thing to get into, digging out all this old music, working out how to sequence it, how to best present it, and just escaping into that groove. That's something that works for me. And I tell you, it's a welcome distraction from all the doom and the gloom and the devastating stuff that has crossed my path over the past several months. I've had enough of that to last me several lifetimes. So we must all, I feel, find other pursuits that get us through the day and enable us to make it while we wait for all these other different aspects to unfold. And I guess that's the art of patience, and I guess that's a lesson for me just as much as it will be for anyone else. I've got some good news. I know good news and 2020 don't really go together, and it's kind of a rarity to hear anything positive in this most wretched of years. But I've had word that the Questioning History conference, which I've mentioned a couple of times before, I did an interview earlier in the year with Gloria Moss, who's the organiser who's putting this whole thing together. This event is going to be able to go ahead over the weekend of the 18th, 19th and 20th of December, just before Christmas. So we've wanted to do this for several months. The madness, the insanity of all these lockdown restrictions in the UK have left the whole thing very uncertain. But we've just had the announcement of this ridiculous tier system in England. And we're told that the site for the conference is in tier 2, as most of the UK is. And according to our Stasi Gulag overlords' rulings, events which are educational in nature or which are business meetings can take place in an indoor environment with up to 1,000 people or 50% of the regular capacity of the venue in question, whichever is smaller. So in this case, it's going to be 50% of the capacity of the venue. The venue is in East Sussex, so the event has moved from Hertfordshire to a venue in East Sussex. It's residential, so the idea is you buy a ticket for the whole weekend and you stay in the conference centre and you're there for the whole weekend. So Questioning History is all about applying new scrutiny to events in history in the same way that we've been revisiting many more recent events in recent times with the aid of the internet and the ability we now have to cast fresh eyes on historical events and ask questions about the official story that we've been told. Because we're coming to realise, aren't we, that everything we've been told in our lives is a lie because of this demonic, evil control system that we have that have got their tentacles into every aspect of human life. How many people over the past few months or the past few years have had to grudgingly accept that everything they thought they knew in life has been a lie. And that goes down to our understanding of history and what we think we know about famous historical events. So at this conference, I'm going to be delivering 3 talks. One is going to be all about this C word nonsense and the evidence that there was for it having been planned many years in advance through aspects of film and TV shows and documents which have become available. It was known to be coming. I'll be doing a presentation on that. I'm also going to be doing one on the dark heart of the BBC. Haven't we found out more about that disgusting propaganda and brainwashing machine, which is a state arm of the government, a mouthpiece for the establishment this year? So I'm going to be going back in time in the history of the BBC and showing the many ways in which it's been used to mind control and societally condition the British public. Then I'll be doing the third talk will be on the 1960s hippie flower power counterculture scene and how that whole thing was, to a very large extent, a creation of the CIA, a social engineering exercise. Also on the bill at this conference are Gloria Moss herself, the organiser, doing presentations on ancient Asclepian centres, medical cover-ups, also archaeologists concealing truths, and Malta and Knossos. We also have Professor David Bates revisiting the Bayeux Tapestry. We got John Hamer, good friend of mine. His talks are going to be titled Winston Churchill, Traitor, and the Truth About the Titanic. And there's also Andrew Goff talking about Hollow Earth, New Discoveries, and Yamashita's Gold and Money Wizardry. So plenty of subjects there to get your teeth in. And over the weekend, you're going to hear presentations on all of those. So if anyone wants to be a part of this event, don't we all need some friendship, some camaraderie, some networking with like-minded people after the shit show of a year that we've all had to endure? This event is going to be as close to normality as it's been possible to get in 2020. And to my thinking, it's pretty much the only event that has been able to take place since March. So we're told that the environment of the venue is going to be very chilled and very relaxed when it comes to regulations and restrictions and all this, and it is going to feel, just like 2019 style normality. So I hope that sold that to many people. If you can be at this venue in East Sussex over the weekend of 18th to 20th of December, and you fancy being among people like us talking about subjects like the ones I've just mentioned, I'll put the details of how you can book your ticket in the show notes below. Check it out. Another thing that I just want to mention again, I gave a mention for this in a previous video a couple of times ago. This is the website run by a good friend of mine, and it's called Silent Majority, silentmajority.co.uk. He's put together a great resource which is standing as something of an alternative to Facebook and other social media platforms. We all know these outlets are heavily censored, they're heavily monitored, they're grabbing your data the whole time, they're keeping tabs on you. The idea with Silent Majority is that those of us that know better assemble on this site instead, and we network with each other on there, and we share resources, share ideas, and just get discussions going on how we can resist tyranny and, show some pushback to all the stuff that's being done to us. So I just wanted to mention the social aspect of that as an alternative to Facebook, as an opportunity to network with other people on the same page. That's silentmajority.co.uk. You might want to check that one out. And again, I'll put the website link in the show notes below. What else did I want to mention? Just a couple of interviews that I've done recently. Last weekend, I dropped in on Rise Above HQ, the operating base of MCLL. Great guy, very switched on, very smart, knows what time it is, great activist. We had a really good discussion about different aspects of what's going on currently. We really vibed, we really had a great talk, and we went to many different places. So if you've not checked out that interview yet, I'll put the link to it below. It's also on the YouTube and BitChute pages, but that's my interview on the Rise Above podcast with MCLL. Great dude. I also had a wonderful conversation this week with Nat Rich for the I Am Sound podcast. We did that as a video and audio podcast. And again, I think we both learnt some stuff from each other, and we both had a lot to contribute to the conversation, and we discussed many different aspects of not just current events, but music and natural law, the laws of the universe, sound frequencies, vibration, all this good stuff. So if you've not checked that one out, the I Am Sound podcast with Nat Rich, again, links in the notes below. Upcoming, I'm going to be doing a new episode of Magical Mystery Talk very, very soon with Matt Sergiu and Desiree. This is episode 4 of the series looking into occult and esoteric aspects of the Beatles. Those two are bloggers who have encyclopedic knowledge of these different aspects of the most fascinating group of them all, the Beatles. We're going to be doing a show in the coming days, which we'll be putting out on the 8th of December to mark the 40th anniversary of the assassination of John Lennon. So we're going to be specifically revisiting that event and looking into many different aspects of the background to it, the run-up to it, and the aftermath of it. So watch out for that one, the 40th anniversary of John Lennon on the Magical Mystery Talk, coming very soon. I've got JCK, who's going to be guesting on Good Vibrations. She's going to be addressing this 21st of December consciousness shift and giving her perspectives on that very soon as well. Watch out for that one. And other than that, like I say, I'm just enjoying getting back into some music-based activities at this time and learning to detach myself and not be so intensely involved in the day-to-day activities of everything else that's going on at the moment. I mean, I was checking the X22 report and Santa surfing daily in the run-up to the US elections, for example. And I initially enjoyed both of those shows. I liked the perspectives that the presenters brought, but I realised after a while that every show was just saying the same thing. It was saying, oh, Trump's going to bring the pain, he's going to drop the hammer, the deep state aren't going to know what's hit him, Biden's finished, the Democrats are finished, the mainstream media is finished, it's coming folks, just watch, it's coming. And you'd get your hopes up and you'd feel all optimistic. Then you'd tune into the show a week later and they're saying the same thing. Oh yeah, it's coming, Trump's got these secret weapons, he's going to unleash all this stuff and the Democrats won't know what's hit him. And then, 2 weeks later, they're still saying the same thing. There's no real detail that's being given here. It's just conjecture and speculation as to what's coming. And we can all speak in those terms till the cows come home. But it doesn't actually change anything. It's just noise, it's just conversation, it's just an echo chamber until some tangible, verifiable, measurable results come along. Then the situation really isn't any different. So I'm holding out hope for these tangible results to come. And when they do, we can all jump on them and examine them and talk about them. But I feel there's very little value in the meantime while we're waiting for these things to manifest to just be talking about them and getting our hopes up and having so much invested in the kind of outcome that we want. It's a case of learning to be patient, learning to have that faith and accepting that what will be will be. You reach a point where you feel you've contributed all you can up to that stage. Not to say there won't be more that you can do as time passes, but you have to recognise when you've done all you can at this time. And now it's out of your hands. It's not your responsibility anymore. I feel I'm at that stage. It will doubtless change before long, but that's where I'm at right now. And so that's the message of this video. I hope it's resonated with people. I hope it's made sense. I hope you found some value in this output. And I'll catch you again soon. Take it easy. I would say stay safe, but that's what the mainstream media says. So I'll say stay sane.